All right, welcome back, everyone. David from Unqualified Critics, and I've got Glenn from Glenn's Retro Show on. Today, we're going to talk about the Arcade1up manufacturing and just our speculation and our thoughts on whether or not these summer release dates for the big three new cabinets, the 40th anniversary Pac-Man, the big NBA Jam cabinet, which I'm super hyped for. I know a lot of you are too, and the Frogger cabinet, whether or not those are going to hit the July 15th date or if they might slip. So, Glenn, welcome onto the show, man.
Always a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. And Glenn, they can find you at glensretroshow.com. If you guys aren't subbed already and you're watching this video and you enjoy the content, make sure to sub Glenn's channel. And yeah, so let's jump into it. So this came about when Glenn and I talked a couple days ago, and he mentioned through his work with the GRS arcade products, having some thoughts on Chinese manufacturing starting to pick back up, and that in fact maybe this stuff will be produced after all. So Glenn, do you want to tell us your thoughts or what you know there that you could share with us?
Well, obviously, what's been going on in the world, there's been some issues going around with production pretty much everywhere. I mean, it's still being affected here in the States now. I think we're really just getting the beginning cusp of what's going to be affected here in the States. But the issues in China seem to be dissipating like right now. My partners out in China, the factories are all starting to ramp back up. They were shut down though for quite a while, but they are starting to pick up now. I know a lot of places are going to be backlogged, but I think right now they're still not 100% out there, but they're maybe at 60 or 75% some of these places. So from what I understand, there's been less of an issue with people getting ill out in those areas. In fact, I don't think there's been any new cases even reported out there. So because of that, the factories have been allowing workers to come back in and get their production lines going. But obviously, they're going to be backlogged for a little bit as well.
So I found an article from the South China Morning Post. Don't know anything about that publication. Obviously, it's not normally the type of sites I would read, but it seems reputable enough when I look at it. So it reports that over 90% of China's state-owned manufacturing has resumed production. It doesn't say what capacity. So is everybody, are those 90%, 100%?
Right.
I don't know if that's true, but still, that sounds rather positive. And like you're saying, the narrative seems to be emerging that the Chinese infections and just overall chaos are behind them for the most part, and that they're recovering. Now, obviously, the rest of the world's a couple months behind them, so we know how that goes. But yeah, so I think what I've read online between this article and a few others, it sounds promising that they should be able to get production back in play, hopefully fairly quickly. But also, like you said, we don't know how backlogged their production is. We know that
Right.
Foxconn is thinking that they're the big mega factory that produces iPhones and I think Galaxies and lots of tech that the whole world uses. They're talking about missing their target. I think this quarter they're planning to be 15% under projected revenue. So they don't think they can be at full production. But 15% is 15%. It's not half or
Right.
two-thirds. And at the end of the day, the Arcade1up products are probably a pretty tiny part, not probably, definitively, a very small part of everything being produced out of China. So do you think, with what you know and what you're hearing, that we're going to see these new Arcade1ups hit in July or thereabouts sometime this summer? Or do you think it's more likely to be in the fall, if you had to guess?
If I was to get, I don't think just because of what happened and it's a rippling effect, right? So even to make an arcade one up or anything, you need smaller components in the factory. They have to produce them before it even comes to be assembled. So I don't think it would hit their initial deadline. I don't. I think they will slip out. It may hit towards maybe the latter half of the summer, and worst case would be the fall. But if I was to guess, I think some will start trickling out probably mid towards end of summer more than the
Okay.
fall.
I wonder if they have anything up their sleeve for that sort of dry spell of running a few months. Like some of the smaller products they've talked about, which those
Right.
are contingent on manufacturing too, but like the micro consoles, have you heard anything from them on that front? If we could expect any of these smaller products to hit stores earlier?
Well, the smaller products, again, it all comes from getting the components. I don't think so. I think they may, if anything, they have a current stockpile of current products. Maybe they could have some
True.
sales or something along those lines. But the new stuff, although it's being produced, they still have to get all the parts for it. So I don't think the mini consoles will the gap. I still think those are probably hitting towards the latter half. My only concern is that they get pushed back past, the Christmas season, because they're shooting for those mini consoles or the mini Colecos, for fourth quarter. And I hate to see them miss that Christmas rush. I know I might have one spare bedroom left in my house where I could put these in. So, it'll give me a little more time to make room. But I honestly don't think that the mini consoles or anything else will fill that gap. Best case scenario is maybe they'll have some sales on the current product line to, kind of bring the sales up during this time of a dry spell. I do know that some people are talking about BurgerTime when they're coming through. I know a friend of mine, Joe Sabo, who was on the Retro Buzz just the other day. I think he got his BurgerTime today. So some of those machines did make it to the States before production problems. I don't know how many made it, but I do know some people have been receiving those units.
So I think they're official.
I don't think, again,
go ahead.
I was going to say, I just don't think they got the full. I think it was 3,000 units they're making at BurgerTime.
Yeah, so they're making 3,000 total, and then it was the first 1,000 they pledged to ship beginning of March. And so they apparently got that full 1,000, as far as I know. They got that thing shipped out, and then it did land at port a week or two ago. Mine is coming tomorrow, and I've heard from a ton of my viewers that theirs have shipped too. I have no reason to believe they didn't get all 1,000 of them out, but there's been no word on the remaining 2,000 that I have seen, at least. So
the thing to remember too is a lot of these boats were sitting in harbors. They wouldn't allow them to even dock. So, they have to wait for a quarantine period of 2 weeks or so before they even allow them to come into dock. So whether it's even left China at this point, we don't know. But again, like you said, 1,000 did already make it either at a distribution center or at least at the U.S. port, and just had to wait its quarantine time before it was able to come through.
Right. So if we get BurgerTime now, I cannot wait for mine tomorrow. You've heard me rant about the joysticks, but I'll save that for another one. Probably safe to assume the remaining 2,000 BurgerTime are going to be coming sometime in the next month or two. I imagine they're in process to some degree. At least I hope.
Yeah. My guess is that they were built and 1,000 were shipped over, another maybe 1,000 were still being, boxed and so forth.
Yeah.
I think the production run of all 3,000 was done already. Like that was already done, because that BurgerTime, remember, was originally a Karate Champ unit. It just had to be reskinned. Right. Actually, it's not even true. They had to put new sides on it because the sides actually changed from Karate Champ to the style of the hat for BurgerTime.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's what's going on too. So if we're going to get the remainder of BurgerTime over the next month or two, if NBA Jam, Frogger, etc. are going to slip to fall, I wonder where that leaves things like the Sega cabinet, because those it sounded like that was being queued up more for a Q3, Q4 release, not available for pre-order. And we know they like to space out their releases. They want to get annual revenue over time. They don't want it all to come within 1 month, and they want to supply stuff to the retailers to keep them interested year long, I'm sure. So that's what I suspect is going to happen, is that some of those later 2020 releases may be pushed back just strategically, or not back, but forward, really, to push them into 2021 so that they have a steady stream of releases. I don't know that these guys are going to want to release all their big name stuff at the same time. I think there's a reason why we get Frogger with NBA Jam and not the Sega cabinet with NBA Jam, because I think the Sega cabinet would be more popular, and I think they're wanting to space out those kind of quote unquote tentpole releases, almost like not have it all. It's sort of like what Disney does with movies. You don't want to have everything crowded all together. That's my suspicion, is that the stuff like the Sega cabinet may get pushed.
And I think I agree with you on that as well. I do think that they strategically put things out at certain points in time. Now, they lost a window here of a few months with this. And I think you're right. I think if these other cabinets do come out a little bit later on towards the fall, that Sega cabinet may get pushed in. And who knows also with the pinball machines now. Those also may get pushed out quite a bit as well. And that would really be disappointing me personally.
Yeah.
But again, it's not in, people can't take it out on Arcade1up or even the manufacturing. It's something completely out of their hands. And we've discussed it between me and you, and also my other friends. We've talked about it, is that, that's why they don't really give definitive release dates.
Right.
This is probably the biggest thing that's happened that really you can see why it's been affected. Sometimes the smaller things can't get apart, but this is was a worldwide break, and your car slamming the brakes. And again, we're still not even out of it yet. And there's no saying that, what's happening in China, because it may end up being cautious, doesn't say it will not stir back up again. Now it has leveled off, and they're just right now going back to work. And that's not saying after a month or two they realized that was maybe a mistake, and it started circulating again. So I do think that we'd be a little cautious about it, but I do agree with you. I think some of the stuff may end up getting pushed into 21.
So I think Sega cabinet may well get pushed. The pinball, honestly, I'm going to be surprised because I think they're going to desperately want to get that in play for Christmas shopping. I think the retailers are desperately going to want that for Christmas shopping. So I think if it's at all possible, I don't think they would strategically push pinball. I don't
Well,
think they would
I'm just saying,
sacrifice it to the next
yeah, it
year.
might be out of their hands, and you're right, only because we have, Toy Shock with their pinball cabinet, and they also have potentially maybe At Games coming into the ring as well.
Yeah,
So they definitely want to get out sooner rather than later. But it
right,
just comes down to, again, the manufacturing, the screens, the smaller screen for the back,
right.
dealing with all the different the components there for the force feedback on the machine. If they can get their parts and in quantity, or maybe it'll be a limited release. Maybe they'll have it
Yeah.
like they've done before. Well, you go to our website, you can order the first 1,000 before it's released
I
to the
think
public.
Walmart would scream bloody murder on them if they did that. I think I don't think Walmart cared too much about BurgerTime, but who pinball being reserved for A1up only, I don't see it.
One never knows. It comes down to which is the worst evil: taking off
Yeah,
Walmart or having your other competition get into market first. At least if you
yeah,
got out there say, yeah, people do reviews on YouTube. We're not talking about me, I'm talking about people who buy them in general. It
right.
might be just beneficial to get first 500 out, or even a contest. We have 10 available. What's the reason why you like Arcade1up or Pinball? And have a contest and just have maybe 10 of them released, just to get that out in the public so they can see that it's real and it's a good product.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess that's fair. But to go back to what you said earlier about the Burger Time first batch shipping, there was some people in the community, I think, some folks in the community that were upset that that got delayed a week or two. I'm honestly amazed it's coming. Like I checked my tracking again today. I knew it was already in process. I knew there was no way it got, swooped out of the air. So I knew it was coming, but it's amazing to me that it is going to be delivered tomorrow. I think probably they got a little bit lucky with getting that first batch in a little early, right before things really hit in the
Yep.
West. But
Yep.
I think they deserve a lot of credit for that. I don't care if it's 1 or 2 weeks past what they originally said. The fact that it's at all within the window, given all the chaos, is fine. Obviously, unfortunate for the other folks, but I think the other people knew there was no definitive release date if you aren't in that first 1,000. So, clearly they weren't super urgent to get it anywhere. They would have probably pre-ordered earlier since they had a big pre-order window.
Right.
We talked when I interviewed with you the other day for your channel about TurboGrafx 16 getting delayed. And at the time you couldn't pre-order. So now you can pre-order again, it looks like, from Amazon. They do have a date. It's December 31. Maybe that's a placeholder. Maybe it's not. I don't know. But then they also have an additional update on their site, which talks about, check here for ongoing updates for when this will be released. So it sounds like it really is an ongoing concern. And so I was fretting that they're going to cancel the damn thing because I just don't trust Konami. But it sounds like my concern was unfounded. We are actually going to get Turbo 16 Mini eventually.
Yeah. We are. Maybe I'm hoping the delay's there because they're taking our ideas. We talked about it yesterday. Of course, the video's not even up yet, but no, just saying.
Yeah.
That a USB port on the back, so you can make attachments like they did, but actually have the games and you attach a CD attachment. I just wish they would listen to things like that. I mean, they're going to sell this little mini console. We talked about it yesterday, and when I finally get my video done, we could post it. But to add a CD-ROM attachment or the attachment that loads more games. We would pay for that, right? You would pay for that. I would pay for that.
Yep. Or memory cards that look like Hue cards that slide in the front even.
Right. You couldn't get any more with the TurboGrafx 16 with like the Hue card and a micro SD card. I mean, slide it right in.
I know. It's already the right form.
I mean, really?
I know.
That's a great idea.
Yep. You don't even need the weird casing around it like you get with like a Super Nintendo cartridge.
Right.
Well,
so maybe they're listening to us.
I doubt it. Somehow I doubt it, just because I don't think they're listening to anyone. I think I think here's who I think they listen to: Nintendo's success with the NES Mini, and then I think they said, "All right, let's do it." I don't know why it took them 2 years, but anyway, I shouldn't complain. I'm really glad we're even getting a Turbo Mini. I didn't think we would, but thanks for coming on and talking. It sounds like we're pretty optimistic. The Arcade1up cabinets are going to get produced relatively on time, maybe slipped by a few months, maybe some stuff that was planned for later in the year, like the Sega, might get pushed. You think the pinball might get pushed? I think a little less likely. I think we have probably enough time in the next 6 months for them to source components and build it. Who knows? That's just a gut feeling, but they have a long window of time, and I don't think they would push it to 2021 just to strategically pace themselves. I think they're desperately going to get that thing out as early as they can. to, as you said, hit the competition. But any other final thoughts on any of that?
Well, just that everything's going to come down to right now. We talked about the manufacturing China's ramping up, whether they have a reoccurrence. If there's no reoccurrence, I think we'll be okay. But if
Yeah.
they go back and find out that it's now becoming rampant again, they didn't have it under control, that's going to be a real problem if that happens again.
Yeah, and there are reinfections. So I saw somewhere there was a 14% reinfection rate in Wuhan, I
Right.
think, at one point. Whether or not that reinfection rate goes down or goes up over time, I don't know. I know minimal about viruses and how they work. So, all right. Well, awesome. Well, thanks so much for coming on again, Glenn from Glenn's Retro Show. Check out his channel, and we'll talk to you again soon, brother.
Same thing, man. Thanks for having me on. Have a great evening, my friend.
You too. See you, man.